By the time I understood what I was doing, the damage was already baked into my life, like a crack in a foundation you don't notice until the walls start leaning. The worst part isn't that I fell for someone I shouldn't have. It's that I watched myself cross the line in slow motion and kept going anyway. My life before all of this wasn't exciting, but it was stable. I had a job I was good at, one I'd grown into over years of showing up on time and knowing where everything fit. I had a partner who knew my routines and trusted them. We had inside jokes about grocery shopping and a shared calendar that mostly worked. Nothing felt urgent. Nothing felt fragile. If you had asked me then, I would have said I was fine. Maybe not thrilled, but fine in that adult way where you mistake predictability for security and call it happiness. Work was where I felt most like myself. It was structured, clean, understandable. Problems had solutions. Effort got noticed. I liked being reliable. I liked being the person others leaned on. That identity mattered to me more than I realized. It made me feel solid. Then there was the coworker. I won't use their name because even now it feels like saying it out loud would give the whole thing more weight than it deserves. They were assigned to a project I was leading. Nothing special about that. At first, what stood out was how easy it was to talk to them. Same sense of humor. Same mild cynicism about the company. The kind of person who could roll their eyes at the same meetings I hated without saying a word. It wasn't flirtation. Not then. It was glances that lingered half a second longer than necessary. A shared laugh when everyone else stayed quiet. Staying late to finish one more thing and realizing an hour had passed. The kind of connection you tell yourself is just good teamwork. I told myself that a lot. We started messaging outside of work for practical reasons, clarifying deadlines, sharing documents. Then the messages got lighter. Memes about office life, complaints about stress, casual check-ins that had nothing to do with the job. I noticed how quickly I responded to them compared to everyone else. I noticed how disappointed I felt when my phone buzzed, and it wasn't them. Lunches turned into routines. Not planned dates, just convenience. We'd sit together, talk about our lives in a way that felt easy. I learned things about them before anyone else did. They learned things about me that my partner probably should have known first. I told myself it was harmless because nothing physical had happened. I clung to that distinction like it meant something. The first moment I couldn't explain away came quietly. We were leaving the office together after a long day, standing too close in the elevator. Our shoulders touched. Neither of us moved. When the doors opened, there was this pause, this almost look, this unspoken understanding that something had shifted. I remember feeling sick and alive at the same time. I remember thinking, this is dangerous, and also, I don't want it to stop. That night, I didn't sleep much. Guilt sat heavy in my chest, but so did relief. I felt seen in a way I hadn't realized I was missing. I didn't tell my partner about the elevator, because what would I even say? I told myself silence was the responsible choice. I told myself I was protecting everyone. From there, the rationalizations stacked up easily. I was stressed. Work had been intense. My relationship at home was comfortable but quiet, and I convinced myself quiet meant stagnant. I told myself that connecting with someone else didn't erase what I had. I told myself it didn't mean anything as long as I didn't let it. But I was already letting it. The double life didn't start with grand lies. It started with omissions. I stopped mentioning lunches. I angled my phone away when messages came in. I deleted threads just to keep things clean. When I stayed late, I made sure to have a work-related excuse ready. I hated how good I got at it. Lying stopped feeling like an action and started feeling like a setting I switched on and off. Emotion crept in before I acknowledged it. I cared too much about their moods. I felt a flash of jealousy when they laughed with someone else. I felt relief when they confided in me instead of anyone else. At some point, I realized the thought of losing them scared me more than the thought of getting caught. That realization should have stopped me. Instead, it made me more careful. There were warning signs everywhere. A colleague making an offhand comment about how close we were. My partner asking why I seemed distracted lately. A moment when I almost sent a message meant for my coworker to the wrong person. Each time, my heart raced, and each time, when nothing happened, I felt invincible. I mistook luck for control. The crack came from something stupid, a notification popping up at the wrong moment. Not explicit, not damning on its own, just intimate enough to raise questions. The look on my partner's face when they saw it is burned into my memory. Confusion first, then hurt. Then that quiet recalibration when someone realizes their reality doesn't match what they thought they knew. I tried to explain without explaining. I minimized. I stumbled. I said things like, "It's not what it looks like," and hated myself for how hollow they sounded. The truth leaked out in fragments, each one making things worse. There was no explosive fight, no dramatic screaming, just long silences, interrupted by questions I couldn't answer, in a way that would make things okay again. Work found out soon after. Not officially at first, just the hum of rumor, the shift in how people looked at us. Then HR got involved, meetings with neutral faces and rehearsed concern, words like conflict of interest and professional boundaries. We were separated, reassigned, our names suddenly heavy with implication. I kept my job, technically. I lost my standing. Trust evaporated. Conversations went quiet when I walked into rooms. At home, the fallout was worse. Trust, once broken, doesn't shatter cleanly. It frays. Every interaction felt strained. Ordinary questions carried suspicion. Apologies felt inadequate. Some things were said that can't be unsaid. Some things weren't said at all, which might have been worse. Eventually, there was distance. Physical at first. Emotional long before that. The relationship with my coworker didn't survive the exposure. Without secrecy, without stolen moments, there wasn't much left. We tried to talk, once, awkwardly, in a public place that felt too bright. We both looked tired, guilty, smaller than before. There was no closure speech, no dramatic goodbye, just an understanding that whatever this was, it couldn't exist in daylight. Now, there's a quiet that follows me around. Not the comfortable kind I used to have, but an empty one. I replay moments in my head, not to romanticize them, but to pinpoint where I could have stopped. There were so many exits I ignored. I don't blame my partner. I don't blame my coworker. This wasn't something that happened to me. It was something I did. I crossed a line because I wanted to feel something sharper than contentment, and I told myself I could manage the cost. I was wrong. The cost was higher than I imagined, and paid in currencies I can't earn back. Trust. Stability. The version of myself I liked believing in. There's no lesson here that wraps things up neatly. No silver lining that makes the damage worthwhile. Just an understanding that some mistakes don't explode. They erode. They wear away at the life you've built until you're standing in the middle of it, realizing too late that you helped cause the collapse. And you have to live with that, long after the secret is gone.